metal point on it and also a hook. So they would strike the ox with the stick to get them to move or poke them. And it also had a flat part on the other end so it would scrape the mud off their hoofs. So what a lot of commentaries said is that this guy is lifted up as a good judge because he used whatever he had as a weapon. Okay, he didn't have any sophisticated weapons.
It says he was a minor judge. What does that mean?
Good point. You see, we only have one verse attributed to Shamgar.
Yeah.
Minor judges, they don't have a lot of information written about them.
Oh.
So it's not like they weren't important. There's just not a lot written about them.
Okay.
Same thing with minor prophets and major prophets. Isaiah is a major prophet, so he gets a 60-some chapter book. The minor prophets have a couple pages.
Mm-hmm.
So same thing when we get to prophets. We'll see that.
Okay.
Good question. Now, we come to one of our favorites. Deborah. Now here, there's some confusion as to who the real judge is, but I think it had to be Deborah, because she's kind of the one that got everybody going. Some people think it's Deborah was the judge. Other people think it's Jabin, who we're going to meet in a second. And still other people think it's, what's that gal's name? Jael. But I think it's Deborah. So, Shamgar dies, so guess what happens? In verse 1 of Judges 4, again the Israelites do evil in the eyes of the Lord now that Ehud is dead. What a surprise. They should have said Shamgar, because Shamgar came after Ehud. But anyway.
It doesn't say how long Shamgar was a judge?
No. Nope.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't say anything about the peace. Maybe they didn't really have peace? I don't know.
No, it said something that maybe he was a foreign mercenary.
Yeah. Oh, that's another
A
good point.
mercenary.
Yeah. Because, thanks Karen, Shamgar and Anath, they're not Israelite names. So that's why they think he was a foreign mercenary. So maybe that's why he didn't get a lot of credit. So the Israelites do nasty things again. And let's see.
Would you consider the nasty things worshiping other gods?
Absolutely.
Is that the big reason?
What do you ask?
They were worshiping other gods.
Oh, other gods, yes.
Yeah. Since they intermarried, they were worshiping other gods, and we know that the nasty things that the Moabites did. They sacrificed their own children.
Yeah.
They had human sacrifices. They had temple prostitutes. They did everything that was awful that God doesn't want. So absolutely, Gary. And Judges 4 and 5, so this chapter and chapter 5, it wraps up the first phase. There's actually 3 phases in the book of Judges. Phase 1 is, it tells us about the faithful, successful judges in Israel. So we only have one more chapter about successful judges. Phase 2, it's like a transitional stage as Israel gets worse and worse. And phase 3, Israel deteriorates even worse under lousy judges. So we're going to be able to watch that and keep track of that. Okay, so Deborah. They sin, so God hands them over to the hands of Jabin, king of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor. So once again, he gave over the Israelites to another country. Now, verse 3, he was so powerful because he had 900 chariots fitted with iron. So chariots were like the big thing back then, because not only did they have big horses leading them that would run over people, they also had, like, remember Ben-Hur?
Yeah.
The bad guy had the razors and the spears on his wheels. They had that too. So these guys would have to do is ride through the soldiers and wipe out most of them. Didn't even have to waste any arrows, just ran them over. And they had cruelly oppressed the Israelites for 20 years. 8 years was the first oppression, 18 was the second, 20 years was the third oppression. So they're getting worse and worse, longer and longer. Now Deborah, a prophet, the wife of Lapidoth, was leading Israel at that time. Leading is another term for judging, okay? Because they're not legal judges, but they're leaders, like Joshua and Moses. So she's actually the judge. So really no question there. She held court under the palm of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim. And the Israelites went up to her to have their disputes decided. She sent for Barak, son of Abinoam of Kedesh and Naphtali, blah, blah, blah. The Lord, the God of Israel, commands you. Go with you and take 10,000 men of Naphtali and Zebulun and head them up to Mount Tabor. I will lead Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his troops, to Kishon River and give him into your hands. Barak said, if you go with me, I will go. But if you don't go with me, I won't go. So this guy's a coward. Deborah told him, God said, I will hand the enemy over to you, but still he won't go unless Deborah goes with him. So we know Deborah, once again, this confirms that Deborah is the judge. So Deborah says in verse 9, of course I'll go with you. But because of the course you are taking, because you don't want to go on your own, the honor of defeating the enemy won't be yours. The Lord will deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman. Huh?
Rich, he keeps coming in and out.
Does he?
Yeah, this is the second time.
That's okay.
Sorry.
So this, of course, is a big deal. First of all, to have a woman judge. Second of all, that she'll get all the glory when the king is defeated. So this is like an insult to Barak, but he deserves it because he was a coward. He won't go to fight for himself. So
So
Deborah,
she was not only a judge, but she was also a prophetess, one of the
Yes.
few women in the Bible.
Yep,
Deborah?
yep, Deborah. Deborah is one of the really strong women in the Bible. So we've got to make sure we lift her up. There Barak summoned Zebulun and Naphtali, and remember that these are the names of Jacob's sons. So these are two tribes from Jacob. And 10,000 men went up under his command. Deborah also went up with him. Now Heber the Kenite had left the other Kenites, the descendants of Hobab, Moses' brother-in-law. So what this means is Heber, he was a relative of Moses, but he left his family behind, and he's kind of aligning himself with the enemy. So he's not a good guy. While they waited, Ehud got away. Wrong page. So Heber the Kenite's not a good guy. When they told Sisera, who's the bad guy, that Barak had gone up to Mount Tabor, the bad guy summoned from Harosheth Hagoyim to the Kishon River all his men and his 900 chariots fitted with iron. So the bad guy is getting ready for a battle. Then Deborah said to Barak, go, this is the day the Lord has given Sisera into your hands. Has not the Lord gone ahead of you? Deborah's still trying to convince Barak it's okay and he's going to win. So Barak finally goes down with 10,000 men following him. At Barak's advance, the Lord routed Sisera. Once again, it's not Barak that wins the day, it's God. And all his chariots and army by the sword, and Sisera got down from his chariot and fled on foot. So the bad guy's escaping. Verse 16. Barak pursued the chariots and army as far as Harosheth, and all of the bad guy's troops fell by the sword. Not a man was left. So he's doing the right thing. He's wiping everybody out. The bad guy, meanwhile, fled on foot to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, the traitor, because there was an alliance between Jabor and the family of Heber the Kenite. Jael, who is Heber's wife, went out to meet the bad guy and said to him, come, my lord, come right in. Don't be afraid. So the bad guy enters her tent and she covered him with a blanket. Now, the bad guy does this because men weren't supposed to be in married women's tents. So he knows if he goes hides there, nobody would expect to find him there. So he's safe.
Does he know that Deborah is in charge?
Oh yeah, he does.
Oh.
But
okay.
Deborah's nowhere near.
Oh.
Okay? So we're gonna be introduced to a new hero in the story. So the bad guy says, "I'm thirsty. Please give me some water." Instead of giving him water, she gives him milk. Gave him a drink and covered him up. What happens when you get warm milk and you get covered up?
Get sick?
Go to sleep.
You go to sleep. You go to sleep.
Oh.
So this girl knows what she's
Here we
doing.
go. They were,
Yeah.
back then, they were have a glass of warm milk
That's
before
right.
bed.
She doesn't give him water, which is going to keep him awake. She gives him warm milk and covers him up.
She puts a nice little cover over.
Nice little covering. You know, tucks him in. She probably did tuck him in because
Yeah.
we're gonna see in a
Right.
couple verses. So before he falls asleep, he says, "Stand in the doorway of the tent. If somebody comes by and asks you, 'Is anybody in there?' say no." But Jael, Heber's wife, picked up a tent peg and a hammer, went quietly to him while he lay fast asleep, exhausted. And she drove the peg through his temple into the ground and he died.
She's good.
She's good. Now, one thing we have to understand, which I didn't until I studied, women were responsible for setting up a tent. So she would have been pretty strong. She knows how to drive spikes. And she knew exactly where to put the spike, right in the soft part of his temple. And she drove it through his head and into the ground. This guy wasn't moving. He's dead. Just as Barak came in pursuit of Sisera, the bad guy, Jael went out to meet him. "Come," she said, "I will show you the man you're looking for." So she went in with her, and there lay Sisera with the tent peg through his temple, dead. On that day, God subdued Jabin, king of Canaan, before the Israelites. And the hand of the Israelites pressed harder and harder against Jabin, king of Canaan, until they destroyed him.
So this was the woman that Deborah prophesied against?
Yeah.
Or prophesied would put him into the hand?
Exactly, because remember, if we go backwards, Deborah says to Barak, let's see, okay, in verse 9, Deborah says, "But because of the course you are taking, the honor will not be yours, for the Lord will deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman." She wasn't saying that she's going to conquer the bad guy. Deborah knew another woman was going to kill this guy. So that proves that she's a prophet. Very good point, Gary, to go back there.
So anytime a king was killed by a woman, it was a terrible insult?
Absolutely. Just imagine getting beat by a girl.
I think later they dropped a millstone on somebody's head.
Yeah. And this was actually a thing. It's probably even an actual thing now. But I remember when I was in high school and they first allowed girls on the track team, we were so afraid to run against the girls if they would beat us. It was a thing. It was a real thing. So yeah, Gary, getting beat by a girl, it's rough.
I can't imagine even in high school now they have girls wrestling guys.
Yeah, it's kind of strange.
Good.
Now, probably the toughest and nastiest team I ever played hockey against was a team of girls. They were nasty because they figured we wouldn't retaliate, you know. So if you stood in front of the net, which isn't a smart thing anyway, the goalie would hit you with her stick, and a goalie stick is heavy. So they were nasty. So I have to admit, I wasn't a nice guy back then. And I was going down the boards, and I had the puck, and this girl was hassling me. She was hooking me and slashing me. So I gave her a hand, and I knocked her down. So I'm sorry. But that's before I was saved. And I didn't get a penalty, which was even better. So Yeah, getting beat by a girl, Gary, bad thing.
We weren't dating, were we?
I played old man hockey when I was working.
Oh. You
Joe's-
did that to a girl?
I did.
A woman?
It was a woman. Yeah, she was a big girl. She was hitting me with her stick. What was I going to do?
She started it.
She started it, exactly. If she doesn't want to play hockey, get off the ice.
Jeez.
So
Okay.
I am so glad God saved me that I wouldn't think of doing that again. But it was fun. So remember, next 2 weeks, Chris Longshore is going to be teaching us about the difference between speaking in tongues and praying in tongues. So it should be a very interesting class. I don't know how long the classes are, but it'll be the same time, 6 o'clock. So tune in. I'll be getting together with Christine, find out what she needs, but we'll still have it on Zoom, so you don't have to come in. Just tune in, and that's about it.
I have a hard
After that, we're gonna pick up chapter 5 and 6, is that right?
Yeah, when we come back in 3 weeks, it'll be, that would be, let's see,
Hold on.
12th, 19th,
After the 17th, so-
26th.
Yeah, and only one class because then we're on vacation.
Yeah, okay, so May 26th we'll have chapters 4 and 5, and then we'll be off the following week because Betsy's moving to Hoffman Estates and we have to move her that week. So finally we
Well, we
get,
got 4 this week.
oh sorry, 5 and 6 the week of May 26th, okay? Chapters 5 and 6.
Because you're doing the no fret the week before.
Right. We're going to have no fret guitar, and hopefully we'll have. I'm hoping the first week of June we'll have 4 little kids playing guitar in church. So we'll see what happens. See if we can get them to go on the platform. I think it'd be pretty cool. And that's really about it. Any questions? Pretty interesting chapters. I really liked the story of Deborah and Jael. I think it's a good story for women to see how God selected women to lead Israel, and it's always good to have strong women. So, good example. Kind of gross story about Ehud and the king, but that's going to happen. So we are making our way through Judges, and I think that's about it. Any questions pop up in these 2 chapters for you guys?
Nope.
Yeah, pretty clean, right? Sin, repent, repeat, over and over and over again.
And kill off thousands along the way.
Thousands and thousands and thousands, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. But we know why God allowed it to happen, because if they didn't kill these people, they would just continue to cause the Israelites to be disobedient. The Israelites just couldn't help themselves. So
God probably left them around just to test them to see if really they would be obedient.
yeah, and God kind of knew they wouldn't. So he sets them up with examples. So Rich, hopefully you're not driving. Hopefully you're parked somewhere.
Good. Yeah, I am. Thank you.
All right, good. All right, folks.
Great. Thanks for everything.
You betcha.
Everyone have a blessed week.
Yep, we'll see you on Sunday.
Thank you, Pastor.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.